This is the single most important piece, in my opinion. Having a structure chart lining out exactly the roles and responsibilities that you need in your practice to deliver on what you need to be delivering on, it can provide so much clarity, so much accountability, so much transparency across the entire practice. Once you get those thoughts on paper and shared with the team, that's literally been the #1 game changer for us day in and day out.
Good day, everyone. This is Dr. David Phelps of the Freedom Founders Mastermind Community and the Dentist Freedom Blueprint podcast. Today, I'm looking forward to a conversation with a gentleman that I've had the honor and privilege to get to know much better in really the last year and a half. He comes through really a referral from other people that I've become good friends with and know, like, and trust. And I think that's sometimes the best people that we get to associate with, whether that's on a personal basis or a business relationship, or sometimes it's both. But I'm pleased to have Mr. Zach Hoskins with us today. Zach, how are you?
I couldn't be better. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on the podcast.
Well, Zach, you bring a lot of experience and capabilities to what you do, and we're going to dig into what you do. I know I'm keeping that a little bit on the side for a moment, but we're going to build into what you do and how you help a lot of the people that I love helping. In my community in Freedom Founders, we are mostly health professionals, and a great number of those are dentists. And you help a lot of our clients, but really what you do is relevant, I would say, for any small business owner, and we can define what that looks like. But let's kind of go back in time a little bit with kind of where you came from and how your experience in your earlier years have really led to the capabilities that I think you bring to the forefront. And I know that you have achieved the rank of technical sergeant in the 131st Bomb Wing with the Missouri Air National Guard, and you were awarded the Air Force Achievement Medal for outstanding achievement. So let's go back there and talk a little bit about your pathway forward to where you've landed today and what you're doing there. So let's go back in time and what experience that you had with the Air Force and National Guard have brought you to where you are today.
For sure. That's a great question. So going back, I always say my background is kind of twofold, and I'm sure we'll get into the other fold here in a bit. But the one fold that you mentioned is the military background. So my dad is a Marine, and I grew up in a military household, very disciplined, very, just in a way of things needing to be in a specific way. And that played really well to my personality and plays really well to the things that I do day in and day out today. And so going back to my time in the military, I was able to have the privilege of joining the Air Force in the Air National Guard. So I worked up at Whiteman Air Force Base on the B-2 stealth bomber. And, through my time in basic training and tech school, I was able to learn different ways of presenting information, gathering information and presenting information, specifically flows of information. And so that's probably one of the key relevant pieces of what I do today is gathering information across multiple different avenues, disseminating them down, and then presenting them in a simple, clear, concise, and consistent way. And so, whenever you look at the military, you kind of have some of those key pieces: discipline, camaraderie, leadership. A lot of those different facets have helped me get to where I am today. And so that kind of drove into me also the ability to continue to have core values at the forefront of my mind. And so I've always had core values at the forefront of my mind for a long time, especially through the military. They were kind of not forced into us, but they were, instilled in us. And so when you look across those pieces of discipline and leadership and flows of information and keeping things simple, it's been really awesome to utilize those individual pieces in my experience to get to where I am today and to help the clients that I work with on a day-to-day basis today as well.
So how did you morph from your military experience, and actually, helping business owner clients? What was the catalyst for that?
For sure. So it's interesting. So the way that my mind works is I tend to self-identify myself as both a visionary and an integrator. And so during my time in the military, I feel like I was very on the integrator, boots on the ground, disciplined type scenario. And so whenever I was in college and after I graduated college, I had always had this drive and desire to be a part of things that were innovative and that I could create with and build and collaborate with others to provide value if we saw a need in the marketplace. And so what I did there was I started to network in between my time in the military and even during school, but then after school, I was able to network with entrepreneurs here locally in Springfield and across the nation. And so what I found with that is whenever I collaborated with those entrepreneurs, I was able to kind of flex that creative muscle and have that innovation and that drive. And so there was that's kind of the other part of my background in a nutshell. I have this integrator side, which is the military side, the visionary side, which is the entrepreneurial startup, kind of how do we get things off the ground? How do we help, other business? How do we help startups get off the ground, basically? And so over the past 10 to 12 years or so, I've been deeply ingrained in both of those sides. And I'm no longer a member of the military at this point, but obviously those experiences and those strengths and those different experiences and challenges continue with me day in and day out. However, I am also still involved in the entrepreneurial startup side, just kind of in a different way now. And so that's to say that, the catalyst and the transition, it almost was a twofold parallel scenario of the visionary side and the integrator side coming together all at the same time and just being able to learn and grow and build things and create.
Most of us don't have that variability or adaptability to be both visionary and integrator. I mean, I know there are some like you that have that uniqueness, and that gives you the ability to, practice and appreciate both sides, as you alluded to. So with like entrepreneurs and the visionary and the startup, and that's probably a lot of business owners, right? I mean, that's kind of typically where they sit in that seat.
Mhm.
And you know as well as I do, and I can speak from being one of those, very visionary. And while I appreciate the detail and the necessity for someone to be in that integrator, we'll define those a little bit better for people, I'm sure, here in a minute. But appreciate that. That is where I think the collision occurs, or the friction, I guess, for those who have these great ideas, we have this energy, and we want to go, take on the world and expand and solve these problems. And it's, we're like always on fire to do it. And yet the missing pieces are just what you talked about. We're not very good with gathering data, the flow, presenting it, because we keep it all in our head most of the time, and expect other people just to kind of understand who we are. And like most people don't understand who we are, because we're kind of different. So talk about maybe a little bit more about, that visionary and then the integrator, and maybe describe a little more of that integrator role. And then we can dig into more of, then how you are actually, making this work, in helping clients that you take on today.
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't read Traction, I would highly advise you go out and grab that book. I mean, that's kind of give you an idea and a background of what all we're talking about here, and kind of my internal ethos of how I see almost every business being able to operate at a super highly efficient, easy, lucrative, and fun way, to take Joe Polish's word.
Right.
So a visionary is, just like you said, Dr. Phelps, it's that person who has 20 ideas. They always have those ideas coming out of the shower. They're on fire for ideas. They've got that fire in their belly to go create and build. And they're typically better with large relationships. They're typically more on emotion and less on logic. They are better with culture and being a guardian of culture. And the integrator, on the other hand, is typically more on logic and is able to have those tough conversations. Almost tough conversations can come more natural to that integrator because they have the systems and processes in place to make those conversations more objective rather than subjective. And so if you think about it, The visionary and the integrator leading a business can be like rocket fuel. And there's a book out there called Rocket Fuel as well, which I would highly recommend. It's how you can maximize the relationship if you have if you are an integrator and you have a visionary, or if you're a visionary and you're looking for an integrator. If you have the right combination there, it can create that rocket fuel. So what ultimately ends up happening, this is kind of what, a look behind the scenes, but let's say the visionary comes into the office or to the practice, and the visionary's like, okay, I have I got these 20 ideas out of the shower this morning. Here's what we're doing. Well, they could go to the integrator, they could go to the office manager, the operations person, however you define that integrator in your practice, and they can say, hey, here's all the ideas I had. Well, the integrator's job is to look at all 20 of those ideas and say, okay, these 19, I think we need to wait on. I'm going to rein you in. However, this one, I 100% believe that that is the one that we need to operate on today based on our core values, based on why we exist, based on where we're going and how we're going to get there, and our structure chart and all of that. And so that's a day in and day out basis of how that visionary and integrator relationship can work. You end up landing on that one idea, taking it and running with it. And then the visionary can sit on those 19 other ideas. If it comes up again, it comes up again. But typically the integrator is the one that reins it in, but then also follows through and makes it happen across the different departments. Maybe it's marketing, operations, or finance.
So for that small business owner, the dentist, dental practice, which is a lot of what we deal with in our community, is for that visionary, that entrepreneur, business owner, to find a recruit, if necessary, that person who's going to be the integrator, director of operations, whatever name you want, office manager. That's obviously got to be maybe not the number one thing, but I know you have a process. So let's just use real life.
Yeah.
Let's say, I'm a dentist. I don't practice anymore, but I certainly did for many years. And I sometimes I had an office manager. Sometimes it was more, different names, like you said, but I was never, the EOS traction wasn't, even a system was out there. There were other systems, right? So I didn't even really understand that at all. I just ran like the typical entrepreneur, and it was what it was. I'm not saying it was terrible, but we could certainly done a lot better. So I'm like calling you, Zach, and saying, boy, I feel like I'm hitting brick walls in my business, in my practice, and I feel like I'm spinning plates all the time, and I'm just challenged to try to reduce stress. Maybe I need a little bit more profitability. I'm working really hard right now, and I'm frustrated. How do you start to triage a guy like David Phelps, who probably sits in that seat that many of the people you work with?
Yeah, I love that. So the first thing that we do is we have a strategic treatment plan scorecard. And so we call this, obviously you all know, listening to the podcast, what treatment plans are. So what I've created to kind of keep it a similar vocab is a strategic treatment plan. So it's a strategic treatment plan for your practice. And so what I've created is a strategic treatment plan scorecard that you can take. It basically is on a scale of 0 to 12, and you rate yourself in these key areas of the business, where you are now and where you want to be in a year. And so that's the first step of saying, like, okay, if we're not aware of where we're at now, then how do we know where to go? And is it even a good fit to continue to go? Or what if you take the scorecard and you're at 12s all across the board? Or if you're at 0, I just think always having some sort of scorecard, some sort of self-awareness or awareness of how you're doing in your practice is a good thing. So that would be the first thing I would say. I would say, hey, let's sit down, let's take this scorecard, let's see where you're at, and then devise a plan to move forward. And the scorecard is basically broken down into key questions. And I believe that there's truly only 5 to 6 key questions that when you have these answers to the questions, your life will ultimately get a lot better. It's pretty simple. However, there's a difference between simple and easy. So I say it's simple because there's a proven process that we can go through, a simple proven process that we answer the questions. The tough part is whenever you have to actually go in and do it. And so some things that I found, and I'll get into the questions here soon, but just one aside here is if you're a visionary and you were to sit down with me and we were to go through and answer all these questions, you could probably answer them off the top of your head. Why do you exist? What do you stand for? Where are you going? All of those visionary type questions. However, when the rubber meets the road is where you need that integrator, that office manager, that person that whenever you put those answers on paper, they can take it, drive it into your practice, make it real on a day in and day out basis, and drive the consistency, the accountability, and ultimately relieve stress for you. So, getting into those questions, if you look at, we obviously need to know, why do we exist? So, why do you walk into your practice day in and day out, flip the lights on, open everything up, get ready for patients? Like, what is that why? And so you kind of have the Simon Sinek, start with why. You've got all these why questions. I'm sure you've all heard of those: answer your why or find your why. So you start with finding your why, or answering the question, why do we exist? So that makes up the first part of what I call your North Star. And so the second part of the North Star is, what do we stand for? And so when you answer, what do we stand for? These are ultimately your core values. These are going to be what you're trying to impart on every member of the human race that walks through your doors, whether that be a team member, a client, anybody like that. And so whenever you have your why do I exist and what do I stand for, you have this North Star that you can always look towards. And so when you have that North Star that you can always look towards, well, as you're looking towards that North Star, we're always going to be climbing mountains on our journey to getting to wherever we want to be. As an entrepreneur, obviously, that things are challenging along the way, things are exciting along the way. We have peaks, we have valleys, but one thing we can always be assured of is that we're always going to be climbing to another peak. And so the next question is where are we going? Where are we going? So we have our North Star. Why do we exist? What do we stand for? And so then we look towards that North Star and we see the peak. And whether that's a 5-year, a 10-year, a 25-year, whatever that looks like, some sort of vision, a big, hairy, audacious goal, to use Jim Collins. What does that look like? What's that peak look like that you can start to stare at that matches up with your North Star, to then reverse engineer down to the next question, which is, how do we get there? And so how do we get there breaks down that longer term peak or longer term vision into little base camps along the way of going up the mountain. Those could be 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, 90-day, weekly, daily. You can see how if you start with your North Star, you hit, why do we exist? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? All of those different pieces can be reverse engineered down to, okay, what do I need to do tomorrow to consistently deliver on the path forward to ensure I get to where I want to go? And of course, we all know, we've all been through crazy times, challenging times, that maybe that peak doesn't even exist by the time you get 3 years down the road. Like sometimes those peaks can disappear, whether that's uncertain economic pressures, whether that's people, whether that's complete changes in the market, whether that's consolidation, whatever that looks like for you. But the goal is to at least have something on paper to start to drive towards. So we have, why do we exist? What do we stand for? That's our North Star. Where are we going? Our peak. How are we going to get there? Our reverse engineered smaller pieces to get there. And then we have, who's going to help? And I think that this is one of the biggest pieces. If you don't have a structure chart lined out for your practice, this is the single most important piece, in my opinion. Having a structure chart, lining out exactly the roles and responsibilities that you need in your practice to deliver on what you need to be delivering on, it can provide so much clarity, so much accountability, so much transparency across the entire practice. Once you get those thoughts on paper and shared with the team, it can be that's literally been the number one game changer for us day in and day out.
So Zach, with setting the North Star and then going to where are we going, how are we going to get there, down to the who's, the structure chart. Is this something that's created, worked on as a team in the culture, or is this something that the visionary, the entrepreneur, basically should develop him or herself, and then that's presented to the existing who's how's this done? How's this done
Yeah,
when you
great.
facilitate it?
Yeah, great question. So what I typically will find has gone best in my experience is working with the owner dentist and figuring out, typically they have some leadership bent team members that would be great to have in the process of creating this together. So yes, I think we all know that we can go as visionaries, as the owner, we can go and we can create all of this and we can send it down to the team and hope that they get it and hope that they buy in. But
Right.
what a cool process to create more buy-in is to craft a small leadership team, whether you have them apply for it, whether you pick them, typically 3 to 5 individuals, depending on the size of your practice. If you have multiple practices, we can talk through that. But typically what I found is yeah, it's a great collaborative process to figure out not just why you exist as a practice owner, but why the entire practice, to kind of raise above just your kind of ideas or ideals or vision for the practice, raise above. And ultimately what that's going to do is it's going to give you more buy-in, which is going to give you less stress in the long term, because to the degree that you can get buy-in and collaborate and empower your team to help answer the question, why does this practice exist? What do we stand for? Where are we going? Well, then you're not going to have to be the one lone driver driving the stake, driving the everything at the top, basically saying, this is where we're going, you're coming with me or you're leaving.
Right.
Everybody's gonna be like, no, this is where we're going and we get to go there together and we built this together. And so it's been really cool to see before practices have worked on implementing an operating system similar to this. And then after, you typically see this, wow, I was actually able to go on vacation because I finally was able to trust my team because they were all on the same page, or everybody was aligned and the accountability started happening. And I didn't have to continuously be getting on to other people. It started a peer-to-peer accountability. There's examples like that across the board of how it relieves stress and increases, honestly, just the fun, even though the challenges are there day in and day out.
Leadership is a word that is bandied about all the time today. There's great books and there's seminars and trainings on leadership, and it's certainly a skill that I think very few are maybe necessarily born with, but it's something you can acquire the skills. And I think that's a big part of what we're talking about here is leadership, leadership from the visionary standpoint, but also having, as you said, that core group relative to the size of your organization, but that core leadership, call it a leadership executive team that has bought in, you've created together, you're all on the same page or working on the same goals, and not just to the aspirations of the visionary, outside of what's our purpose, why are we here. People need to stand on that North Star, but people that are work within an organization, they also have to have a personal why, right? I mean, they need to feel empowered that they are important, that they are delivering value. That's part of the culture, right? And that's something that I know you help ascertain. And sometimes in going through this process, no question about it, one may find team members that currently exist on the team that probably aren't going to be long-term members of that team, and that's part of the process, right? Sometimes because as you said earlier, as visionaries, we're not usually the best equipped to have those difficult conversations because again, we're moving fast, and we're not patient enough, and so therefore we oftentimes will tolerate. Will tolerate, right, certain things, hoping that just magically some system or some person will just change, and we realize after much frustration that That's not the way it's going to work.
Right.
So what you do is you help break that the inertia that we tolerate many times way too long, because we just don't know. We don't know how to go about it. And I think
Yeah.
as you said, you can read Traction. It's a great book. Rocket Fuel. Again, I
Mhm.
highly recommend. And people that ask me say, well, I'm pretty much I'm self-motivated. Got it. Yes, I no question you are. I can read well. Yes, I can study these principles and probably understand. Yep, probably you can. But the facilitation from somebody,
Mm.
with the experience that you have in my life, when I want to go faster and get from a place where I am today to another level, and whatever that is, what it might be a sports activity or something, or right, some hobby, or in this case the business. Well, if I want to get there faster, yeah, I can certainly kind of be self-taught, and that maybe can work to a point, but it's clumsier. I think having somebody that's been there and done it can speed that process up and take a lot of that frustration out of getting to where you want to go. Would you say?
Yeah, for sure. And something that's another interesting kind of point to that is, and I appreciate you for saying that. Um, on a day-to-day basis, so I'm the integrator at Duckett Lad, dental CPA firm. So on a day-to-day basis, I see all of the different challenges, ins and outs of what it means to have a team, what it means to be an integrator, what it means to work with a visionary who has a ton of ideas and is a wonderful leader, and then a way to reverse engineer down what ideas we need to go implement, and then see the follow through and make sure that things are working across the entire firm and business. And so the cool thing that I found too is to the degree that I'm on the boots on the ground, kind of actually operating as an integrator, then I get to pull myself out and I get to go and help others, which is my ultimate passion, is to go and help others achieve the life that they desire. And so I am an integrator, and I help implement this system. And so I'm also using the system day in and day out. And so that helps whenever I'm implementing, I can see the challenges that you've been a part of. I've got all of a lot of these different tools, tips, tricks in my book of like, yeah, I have tough conversations all the time too. And so to the degree that I can share those tools with you to help those conversations become simpler for you, and to help you achieve results way quicker than you might have normally done it. That's just stuff that I've seen on my experience from working in the business as an integrator. And so it's awesome to be able to share that as well.
So I wanted to get to where we got to meet. So you brought that to the forefront. So I'm going to give a 2-for-1 shout out here. Our uh, Bill Ladd and Jared Duckett, or Duckett Ladd CPA firm, is who you work with. As you stated, you are the integrator for them. And
Mhm.
I know through many of our members in our community who utilize their accounting and CPA tax services, how they get 5-star ratings all the time. And that's not without having a system in place that manages the flow, client flow, client communications, client expectations. Those two gentlemen are very astute and very experienced in what they do. There's two of them. I don't know, and I'm not asking how many clients that Duckett Land serves, but I know that there's great systems in place, because over and over and over again, people just say, wow, the experience has been great. That's not easy to do particularly in a service organization. That's not easy to do. So that gives great credibility to what you do because of the ratings they get. So I just want to bring that out. And you've worked with a number of our members in Freedom Founders, and they give you the same 5-star rating. So people know I'm reticent to hardly endorse a lot of people. I have some great interviews on these podcasts, and I love to bring great people, great thinkers, resources. But unless I've utilized them or have proximity like I do, I'm always going to be careful about like hardly endorsing, but today I am, because I do know the track record that you have, Zach, with your clients, and I know the track record that Duckett Ladd have with their clients, and many are obviously mutual. That's why you help the CPAs. They get into the business aspects with some of their clients, and they hear the frustrations. They go, well, we can help you with the tax and the accounting and the numbers, but you know what? You've got some other issues that I think could be helped as well. And it helps the whole business organization to have it under the expertise that you all bring. So I just want to bring that out here today.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. One thing I wanted to touch on, you kind of touched on it as far as like team members and, something that we're seeing boots on the ground, and everybody's seeing it is retention of team members,
Mhm.
key team members, turnover is high. It's hard to find new team members. Something that I found with working with dental leadership teams, and if you this was one of these things that started to pull on my heartstrings, and so I created a service for this. However, what I've noticed is that office managers, operations managers, and integrators are alone. And if you don't know
Mm.
that they're alone, then yeah, I don't know if you've had a conversation with them. What I've noticed is that all of these integrators, office managers, and operations managers feel alone. And so something that I created is the monthly momentum mastermind. And so typically, if you're listening to this, you've probably been a part of a mastermind or some sort of community where you could go and ask any question and be able to get feedback from others who might be in the same situation. When is your office manager able to do that?
Mhm.
So something that I've created are small cohorts of office managers who are across the nation, and we are launching our next one very soon. Our most previous one, it's so incredible to see, and I wish I could share all of the wonderful wins and successes that we've gotten in there. It's becoming a family of seven or eight office managers across the nation who, in dire need, hey, we just lost 3 hygienists. This is happening. What's going on? They'll post it in this WhatsApp group, and the rest of these office managers will dive in and they'll just lob, hey, have you tried this? Hey, have you tried this? Hey, I understand you're going through that tough time. So the reason I say that is if you're ever worried about losing your office manager, losing your integrator, losing your operations manager, if you want to give them another benefit, if you want to empower them to be thinking through how to minimize dangers, maximize opportunities, leverage strengths, especially during this economic uncertainty, plug them into a group, period, whether it's mine or not. But I'm noticing through conversations that they feel alone, and getting around others who are speaking their same language is absolutely a game changer for them, for your practice, ultimately for you to relieve your stress if they're asking questions to these other office managers, maybe not looking to you all the time for the answer.
Yeah, we're not capable of giving them what they need. They need to have, as you said, cohorts that sit in the same position and dealing with the same stressors. And you're so right. If providing the kind of support that your key team leaders need, in this case the integrator, is so
Mm.
important because they want to serve well. It's in their heart. But if they feel like they have to ask too many questions, or if they're getting stressed out, which there's a lot of stress in that position, you said they feel
Mhm.
alone, then that could be a reason why they might leave. Not that they don't like you or like your
Mhm.
mission or your North Star,
Yeah.
but they may leave because the stress is too much. And if you don't have a place to get that out, and like you said, have a tribe of people that understand what you're dealing with and give suggestions, that is a mastermind. And
Mhm.
we know as visionaries, most of us have been part of masterminds. We realize how important that is for us. But what about our key people? Where do they get the support? I think it's brilliant, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's a key piece that's probably missing in most, I'll call it coaching, practice management. Is that's an aspect that's missing, and you bring the pillars of the key elements that are the
Mhm.
drivers to creating that culture and that momentum that we as entrepreneurs aspire to have, and yet seems like it's so far out of reach all the time. I appreciate you being here, Zach. It was a great conversation. We're going to put in our show notes, we'll list, I've got the different websites and connection points. Is there one that you'd like to give me that would be the best one to go to? Website, would that be ducketlad.com?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Ducketlad.com. You can find us on there. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. we're out there, and it's our goal to strive every day to make the lives of our team members and clients better. So anything we can do, we're always in your corner, always cheering you on, encouraging, supporting, striving to get you to the life and the practice that you desire and deserve. So
Well, I know where your heart is. We've spent enough time together. I know that's how you serve with high integrity and authenticity all the way. So I would encourage anybody who's listening today, if this has stirred some of those emotions and those frustrations that I know that we all feel too often, on too regular basis, it'd be worth a connection with Zach, just to talk it through. I know you'd be happy to have that conversation with somebody without obligation, but just to see where could be the opportunities that they could have that life that they desire to have.
absolutely. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Zach. If you enjoyed watching or learning from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. If you have a question about any of my content or this specific video, just please leave a comment down below. And as always, stay focused on your freedom. I'll see you next time.